you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're playing some Raid Shadow Legends, and I'm gonna give you my top 5 best rare champions in the game. Well, the game does start you with some fantastic starter champions that are rare. Why start the game with just a rare when you can actually start it with a legendary champion? That's right, if you actually download Raid Shadow Legends using my code linked down below, or by scanning the QR code on the screen, I'm gonna send you Elenaril to your inbox on day 1. So it's gonna make your start a lot easier. And at level 25, I'll also send you a Uugo. So be sure that you use my link as a new player to download. Before I get into my top 5 list, I do want to note 2 things. Number 1, this is not going to include any voids. I actually think that they deserve a full video on their own. So be sure you subscribe so you do get to see my top 5 rare void picks. That's gonna be coming soon. And this video is also not going to include any of the starter champions in this list because yes, while Kyle and Athel are all great, they are starter champs and they're great for their own reasons, so I've actually excluded them specifically for this top 5 list. We're first going to start with Maiden. So one of the great things about her is that she does actually drop from the Deadlands, which is campaign 9, so very easy to get her and very easy to get copies of her. Maiden is a barbarian and she is a part of the Force Affinity. So looking at her skills, her first skill is a single target attacking an enemy, but she does have the chance of placing poison on them, and poison is a debuff that we do really like because it helps to eat away at their HP. Her second skill is another single target where she is going to place a 50% increased attack buff on herself and places an extra hit if the attack is critical. The second hit won't be critical though, but the first one can be, so you'll see. It's nice because she also gives herself a bit of a buff within that own skill. I would argue it's her third skill that makes her really good because it is not only an AoE, but it's an AoE that has the chance of placing the decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. That's right, it is an AoE defense break on everybody. So that right there is huge because she is able to really set your team up to be able to do a lot of damage. As soon as that defense is broken, and you have your attackers going in there, that's really big, and that's kind of where you can see her potential shine in something like Arena or in other PvE areas of the game. Next on the list is going to have to be Apothecary. A part of the High Elves faction, he is a support magic type, and if the name of the game is speed, you want to use him, especially early on when you're starting out. It is going to be a huge benefit for your team. Taking a look at his skills, his first skill does just attack 3 times at random, so it is just a regular hit skill, but that's not really why we are using Apothecary or why he's on his list. Second skill does heal a target by 35% HP, and anytime that you have somebody that can heal on your team, that's going to be huge because that's going to obviously keep everybody alive a little bit longer. But as we said, the name of the game being speed, it's the third skill, so places the 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns and fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. So being able to give anyone a speed buff, you'll see right there, that's really what makes him useful. So as a support, yes, he has the heal, which is great, but it is going to be this buff, which is going to help because you're going to see where you're going to use him in things like Arena, but also why you can use him in other places of the game, like a clan boss or in some of the dungeons. Overall, he's just a really great support, and for being a rare, really easy then to actually be able to do things like skill him up and take more advantage of that. The next rare champion on my list is going to be Frozen Banshee. So part of the Undead Horde, this rare attack type is a part of the Magic Affinity, and this one is on my list, number 1, because she pairs really, really well with Elenaril. So again, that is that free champion that you can get on day 1 by using my link or my QR code to actually download the game, and they pair very, very nicely together, and part of that actually has to do with her first skill. It's not only her first skill, but it does also work really well with her third skill. So third skill, attacking an enemy and placing a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns. This ties into her skill 1, where she attacks an enemy 2 times and has that chance of placing the poison debuff if they have poison sensitivity. So you're using her third skill, she does the poison sensitivity, then you go into her first skill to actually place the poison, and as I said, places really nicely with Elenaril, who also places poison but also is able to activate that. So think of all of that in combination. You're using Elenaril, you're getting more poison, you have Frozen Banshee with the poison sensitivity, then it all gets activated. You can really eat away at an enemy's HP. I don't want to ignore the second skill either because this does attack a target and fills the turn meter of all allies by 2% for each debuff on the target. So if you're thinking about all those poison debuffs counting as something that is going to be able to increase the turn meter of the allies, that is huge. So as I said, she's definitely on this list because she pairs very nicely with Elenaril, but you also see her benefit in places of the game like her with Clan Boss and in certain dungeons like Dragons, for example. Next on my list is going to have to be Margret, who is a part of the Demon Spawn faction, a part of the Spirit Affinity, and her being a rare defense type. Looking at her first skill, so just attacking an enemy, but this has the chance of placing the decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. So this is something that is great because it's going to minimize that incoming damage by a little bit. It's the second skill that's really great because it is an AoE attacking all enemies, but having the chance of actually placing the weaken debuff. And weaken is one of the best debuffs in the game because it will allow your damage dealers to do even more damage. The third skill is also nice because you do have the chance of placing a freeze debuff, and any time that you can freeze and temporarily take somebody out of the equation is going to be a good thing, right? But I think the second skill is really the one that makes her shine, and the reason that she is on this list because any time that you can have a champion that is going to allow the rest of your team to do even more damage, the better. And the fact that, again, she is a rare, it is easy to skill up and actually use her. Last but not least, Aris is the one that is going to be on my list. So she is a part of the High Elves faction as a force affinity, being an attack rare type. The great thing is that you can actually get her from campaign number 6, the Palace of Arabia. She does drop there, so again, a very easy way to skill her up. Starting off, she has a great aura leader skill with increasing the ally speed in dungeons by 16%. Anytime we get more speed, the better. Her first skill is just a single target attacking an enemy and granting an extra turn if the target is killed. Anytime you can get an extra turn in there if someone's killed, honestly, it's great. Her passive as well counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. So this is good too because it's not her necessarily, but if anyone is attacked, she will be able to counterattack. However, it is the second skill. This is the skill that puts her on this list that makes her really good. It removes a random debuff from all allies. So every time she goes, it'll have that cleanse in there, which is great for your team, but also has the 60% chance of placing the 30% increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. And again, the more speed you can have, the better. So this is what makes her so perfect for clan boss and putting her in there because you're increasing that speed of your team, which is super ideal. And again, she drops from campaign, so actually being able to level this up is going to be really, really easy. But again, she is very critical to what I'd be doing in clan boss. So if you are able to get good combos like that, she really does shine in there. I will make an entirely different video on clan boss and actually using them and everything. So be sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. I will, of course, note that there are great starter champs. We've done an entire video on them and who's good. And again, they could ideally be on this list because with someone like Kyle, you're going to use him in other areas of the game. He also has poison in there and he is really good and ideally could be on this list. But I did intentionally not want to include starters, so something to keep in mind. And although some of these rares may seem niche, it's easy to build if they are able to drop from campaign, for example, like the ones that I mentioned. And sometimes they are a very core part of the team. So ideally, like with rares, sometimes you may overlook them and they may have specific needs. And a good example is actually if you click on some of the reviews on some of them, they might not seem that great. They might have very low ratings, like War Maiden, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be useful. But they'll have very niche uses. So definitely don't overlook all the champions in the game or just go by what the rating is in here because you never know where one might be useful. Those are my picks for the top 5 rare champions in the game. Again, this is not including void rare champions. Those will be a video on their own, so be sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on that. But I would love to hear from you guys. Comment down below and let me know what are some rare champions that you love in the game, that you are still using in the game. If you are like endgame, are there any that you are still using? Comment down below and let us know. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Bye! Next level.